When determining if a situation or circumstance is a material conflict of interest that must be identified, reviewed, and addressed in the best interest of the client, it's best to know how to evaluate for conflicts of interest rather than relying on a list of comparable conflicts. To help, we created a conflict decision tree for advisors to work through the steps of how to determine whether or not material conflicts exist and which steps to take next. Gut conflict? Does the conflict make your interests inconsistent with the client's? Are you influenced to put your interests ahead of your client's? Could it compromise the trust that a reasonable client has in you? If the answer is no to all three, there is no conflict of interest and no further steps need to be taken. If you've answered yes to at least one of these questions, proceed to the next question. Has the conflict already been disclosed to the client and addressed by the dealer's policies and procedures? For example, compensation-related conflicts, referral arrangements that have been disclosed to clients and currently have proper controls in place. If the answer is yes, then continue to follow under your dealer's policies and procedures. If the answer is no, then continue to the next step to determine whether the conflict is material. Is the conflict material? Could it affect the decisions of the client in the circumstances? Could it affect the recommendations or decisions of the registrant in the circumstances? If no, continue following dealer procedures. If the answer is yes, proceed to the next step. Has your dealer been notified? If not, notify your dealer. If yes, proceed to the final step. Can disclosure and the use of controls properly mitigate the risks and address the conflict in the best interest of the client? If the answer is yes, then proceed with the activities with your dealer's permission and with proper disclosure and controls in place. If the answer is no, then the activity or circumstance must be avoided. Dealer firms have record-keeping obligations, which include documenting its compliance with managing conflicts of interest. The more material a conflict is, the more detailed the records should be. And while there is no specific or detailed requirement on how much to document, more detail is generally better than less. When disclosing information to clients about a conflict of interest, the disclosure must happen before an account is opened or in a timely manner if the conflict was identified after a client has opened an account. The disclosure itself must include the nature and extent of the conflict, the potential risk impact to the client, and how the conflict of interest is being addressed in the best interest of the client.